Zooey Mama! We are here today to talk about the new October season for Marvel Snap. It is right around the corner. We've got the Venom season, and we have a lot of new cards coming out. We have the Season Pass card, Agent Venom, and then we have 5 additional cards, okay? The season is just stacked. So I'm going to run through all these new cards, their new abilities, just my first kind of thoughts and impressions on what decks they might like, what combos they might work with, and I'll give my first impressions in the form of ratings as well, and I'll also have a spot for you to share your own ratings of these new cards that I will then showcase in future videos when I cover each individually. So why don't we go ahead and get started with our season pass card, Agent Venom. So right on October 1st, we have the new season kicking off. If you do go ahead and buy the season pass, you will get Agent Venom, who's a 2-cost 4-powered card, which is already just a nice stat line, with the on-reveal ability to set the power of all cards in your deck to 4. This is very interesting. It's kind of like Bast, but for your deck, right? Bast sets all cards in your hand to 3 power. Agent Venom sets all cards in your deck to 4 power. So it's more than 3, it's 1 more, but they're in your deck, you do have to draw them. And this just seems interesting. The first thought is like, oh, let's play Cerebro 4. I don't know about that. I mean, you do need to draw the cards. If you have like Iron Man and Cerebro in your hand, they don't get hit, but you could just play cheap card decks. I mean, you don't need to play a Cerebro deck. You could just play things that normally have very low power. My first thought is actually a Surfer deck. Doesn't really have many go-to 2-cost cards, and you're happy to hit a Brood, a Silver Surfer, a Cassandra Nova. You could throw in a Rogue. There's some good tech option 3 costs that have less than 4 power. Some things are right at 4, like Sebastian Shaw or Sarah. So I like him in Surfer, but I think he actually has a few different homes. So let's look at my first impression ratings. So here is the Season Pass level 50 variant. So if you do buy the Season Pass, you get Agent Venom at level 50, you will get this variant. This one and all of the new card spotlights coming out this season are Pandart Studio. Now, you see down here, I've got Docty's ratings and I've got the community ratings, okay? Because I'm going to give you the chance to vote and tell me your ratings of cards. So in the description for this video, very top line, I will have a Google survey link. You can go there and rank every card for the season. Tell me the ratings in terms of flexibility and competitive. Okay, it's going to be numbered 1 through 4, just like I have it here where it's 1 through 4 stars. Now, for me, I think Agent Venom, he's actually okay in terms of being flexible. I don't think he's too niche. Again, I don't think he's just stuck to like Cerebro 4, but I think you could do Cerebro if you wanted. You could play him in a Surfer deck, like I mentioned, just cheap zoo-type stuff, potentially, if you're looking to cut Mockingbird and Gilgamesh. He could work in like a bounce deck. They've got tons of cheap cards, right? And you're just happy to hit stuff that's just less than 4 power. I mean, it can be 1-cost cards, or it can be expensive cards, where I mentioned the Cassandra Nova, or you hit Iron Man, right? There are just some good hits. So I think he actually has a few different homes and not just stuck to one thing, but I'm excited to know what you guys are cooking up, and definitely let me know what decks and combos you're thinking about for him in the comments. In terms of being competitive, I think he's good. I mean, 4 power is a lot. If you do manage to hit an Iron Man or Cassandra Nova and then draw it, that's huge. And as a start line, Agent Venom himself is a 2-4. Like that's good stats, okay? Even if you only really play 1 or 2 of the cards that he buffs up, he could be contributing 8, 10, 12 power pretty easily. So I think he's going to be a really strong Season Pass card. I don't know if he'll be game breaking right now. I think he seems like he's at a good competitive level, but he's got some good potential, that's for sure. Next up, we've got Scream, who is the first card coming to Spotlights in this new season on the very first week, alongside Man-Thing and Mobius M. Mobius. Now, Scream is a 2-cost, 2-powered card with the ability when an enemy card moves, and that's moving anywhere, from anywhere, steal 2 power from it. It only happens once per turn. I like this. I think this actually might be my favorite card of the season. I'm not sure if it's going to be the strongest. I think it'll be good. I'm not sure it'll be the most powerful, most competitive of the season, but I actually really like this ability. And the reason is it doesn't matter where the card moves. Okay, Kingpin is not a very good card. right? Kingpin has the potential to take a bunch of power from your opponent's moving cards. Scream is essentially doing the same thing. I mean, she's stealing 2. So Scream, if you move one of your opponent's cards, Scream becomes a 2/4, and that card loses 2 power. So Scream is essentially like a 2/6. Each time she triggers, she's getting +4, essentially. Okay, kind of similar to a Kingpin situation, but Kingpin, you need to move cards to Kingpin's lane. Scream, you don't. You just move the cards anywhere. Okay, you just play her with Juggernaut or Cannonball, and those don't really work well with Kingpin because they're hitting cards to random lanes. But with Scream, it's just any time a card moves. And if you do happen to get lucky and run into a move matchup, you're going to ruin their day. So to look at my first impression ratings, in terms of being flexible, I actually think she's pretty good. She's not always doing something. You do want to pair her with at least one mover, mainly Juggernaut or Cannonball, I think. But you can just fit that package into a lot of decks. I mean, Juggernaut's a good card, Cannonball's a good card. So you can just play them already by themselves, and now you just throw Scream in there. Again, if you get lucky and you run to a move match, that's awesome. But if you don't, you're happy to just move one thing. That makes Scream essentially a 2/6, right? And that's nothing to complain about. So I think you just play Scream, Juggernaut, Cannonball, put that package into whatever decks you like, maybe some nice mid-range, just good card stuff, and she's going to get good value. Okay, so I think she's fairly flexible, even though at first it reads like she may be niche. I don't think you need to go all in. I don't think you need to start rolling out the Polaris and the Spider-Man and all of that stuff. In terms of being competitive, I also think she's good. Okay, I'm not sure she's overpowered. Again, unless your opponent is playing Jeff or Nightcrawler, or they're playing a full move deck like Madam Web, Aranya stuff, you're probably not getting too much just free value from your opponent. Okay, maybe if Nocturne were to come back into the meta, then it has more free value. But normally you're going to have to kind of be the one to instigate it and be the one to move your opponent's cards. Or if you play Scream, your opponent may just choose to not move their cards around. So you can't really rely on your opponent being the one moving things. You have to move stuff. She does require a bit of combo, so I don't think she's going to be overpowered. But I think as a 2-cost card, again, it's just going to be nice to have. I think it's going to be a fairly flexible card, and what I think will be my favorite card of the season, just because it's fairly flexible, and a lot of cards this season seem pretty tied to one archetype. But again, we got the community ratings over here on the right, so click that Google link, fill out the survey, tell me what ratings you have for Scream in terms of being flexible and competitive, and we'll see how she performs. Before we look at the next card, this is just my friendly reminder to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already, because we cover every single new card in Marvel Snap, as well as cover the full season of spotlights and the ratings. And I've been doing some 5-minute card guides for some existing cards that are being re-released in spotlights as well. It's a good time. Stick around. Following week on October 8th, we have Misery coming to Marvel Snap alongside War Machine and Namora. Some pretty strong cards at the moment. Misery is a 4-cost, 7-powered card with the on-reveal ability to repeat the on-reveal abilities of your other cards here, very much like Odin, but at the end, she will look to destroy them if possible. Okay, so the first thought here is that you want to play armor, and then Misery works like Odin, but she's 2 cost cheaper and just 1 power less, okay? Because she's going to repeat the on reveals first, and then she's going to look to destroy. So even if you have armor down and she can't destroy the cards, she still will repeat the on reveals. But that might kind of fill up the lane. That might be a bit clunky. So I'm really interested to see what combos she likes. I think you're going to need stuff where you don't mind the cards dying. Maybe it's the Ironheart, the White Tiger, these cards that don't power up themselves but look to power up other things. I think you might need to look at that. Maybe you do some, I don't know, Wong hazmat shenanigans, something. But let me know your thoughts. I think Misery is going to actually be the hardest card of the season to deck build with, to really find out a nice working combo. But if you find something that works, she might just be Odin that costs 2 less, and that could be very strong. So here is the Spotlight Week variant for Misery. Pretty cool. I love the frame break here. Honestly, all of the Spotlight variants this month are insane. They're just crazy, and it's a great character selection. Now, in terms of my rating for Misery in terms of being flexible, I don't think she seems very flexible. Again, you need to be okay with destroying the cards Often if you're playing Odin, you're not trying to destroy the other cards on his location. So that does seem like a big downside. Even, you could say, oh, put her in a destroy deck. That seems kind of weird. I mean, she can't re-trigger Deathlock. Deathlock would destroy Misery. It's just awkward, And if you need armor, but then you don't draw armor, well, then it's a bit awkward too, right? It's like, is she entirely dependent on armor? That feels weird. So I think it's going to be something pretty specific. Again, if you've come up with a good combo already, let us know in the comments. I've not tried to deck build with her yet, but I don't think she's going to find too many homes. In terms of being competitive, I think she's okay. Again, I think she's pretty niche, and it's not entirely obvious what that niche is. And with cards like that, sometimes they end up being really good. It just takes like a week or two to find out where they belong. But you can't really just stuff her in existing decks, I don't think. I don't think there's many existing decks that are good, they already perform well, and you're like, okay, let's just put Misery in. Take out something, put in Misery. I think you kind of have to build around Misery, and sometimes the build around cards are a miss. Whereas the cards that can fit into decks that you already know are good are usually pretty safe and reliable picks. But again, we'll see what the community says in terms of her being competitive. Next up, we have Scorn coming out alongside Jean Grey and Sebastian Shaw on October 15th. Scorn is a 1-cost 2-powered card with the ability, when you discard this, return it to your hand and give it +2 power to itself and one of your cards in play. So you have Scorn in your hand, kind of like Swarm, and we're going to have Scorn, Swarm. It's going to be kind of confusing when we talk about her, but when you discard Scorn, she's going to get +2, so the first discard, she becomes a 1/4, and then she's going to give +2 power to one of your cards on the board. You don't know which one, but it'll get +2 power. And then you discard Scorn again, she becomes a 1/6, and dishes out another +2. Now, actually, Scorn is a great example of why I don't like to cover new seasons really early anymore. Cards just change so much. Originally, Scorn was data mine to power herself up and then give her power to cards on board, and it looked insanely OP. I know some people already started saving keys and spotlight caches for her, and that can be kind of dangerous when the data mines are that far out. I mean, this is still data mine. This whole video, these cards are not official. I should have mentioned that earlier. My apologies. But we're pretty close to the start of the new season, so there may be some minor changes, a number here or there, but we're going to be pretty locked in. But when you're talking about a month out, things change a lot, okay? But Scorn now is just powering herself up by 2 each time she's discarded, and she's given something on board too. It seems better than Swarm. Scorn seems like a better Swarm, because Swarm, when you go to play, takes up a lot of board space, right? Sometimes you don't have space to play all the free Swarms, and it's not adding power to any other cards on the board, whereas Scorn is gaining power herself, and she's powering stuff up on the board, even if you don't end up playing her in the end. This is another super cool Spotlight variant. I absolutely love it. It's just awesome. In terms of being flexible, no, this is not a flexible one. I mentioned earlier, this season has a lot of cards where they just don't seem very flexible, and Scorn is one of these. It's clear she's meant for discard. I mean, she's not even say discard or destroy. She's just when you discard this. Okay, this is going to be in decks where you have Swarm, basically. It's going to be full discard, not like hella discard, but more Swarm, Apocalypse discard. You could be looking to play, stuff with like the Collector and Dawkin, and you're going to look to discard cards as many times as possible, right? You're going to have the MODOK. Maybe you have Scorn alongside Swarm and Apocalypse all in your hand. These cards that can be discarded over and over but stay in your hand. So I don't think she's flexible. I think she's fairly niche, but she looks really competitive still. And I know her ability has been changed since first release, but she's still a 1-cost card. And so the thing about that is, a lot of times these discard decks don't ever play Apocalypse, right? A lot of times you discard Apocalypse a lot, but then he stays in your hand, and Dracula will discard him at the end, and Dracula will get all of that power. Sometimes on turn 6, you just play MODOK, and MODOK is a 5-cost card. Well, now you can play MODOK and Scorn on the very last turn, okay? If you did, discard Scorn, let's say 2 times earlier, then Scorn would be a 1/6. That also gave +2 power to 2 cards on the board previously, so Scorn was effectively a 1/10 that you play alongside MODOK on the last turn. That's very powerful, okay? Or even if you don't end up playing her, again, she's probably just going to produce some nice value. Discard 3 times. You're already looking at 6 power to the board, and then scoring herself would be a 1/8 if you play her. I mean, it can ramp up really, really quickly. It's very niche, but I think it can ramp up. So I think she has the potential to be the strongest card of the new season. But we'll see how I feel about her when I start trying to deck build and really look at those options, because those decks do have to be good. You know, if those type of discard decks just aren't working, then she may not be worth it at all. So I'm going to brainstorm more, but right now, she looks good. Next up, we are looking at Toxin, coming out on October 22nd alongside Zabu and Elsa Bloodstone. Toxin's a 2-cost 1-powered card with the on reveal ability to return your other cards here to your hand, just like Beast. But when it happens, Toxin himself is going to get +2 power for each card return. So very similar to Beast, except Beast now costs 3. Maybe they made Beast cost 3 because they knew Toxin was coming out and he's supposed to be the cheaper bounce card. I don't know. But he's going to return all the cards on his location to your hand. And if you, say, return 2 cards, then Toxin becomes a 2/5. That's pretty good. If you return 3 cards, then Toxin becomes a 2/7. That's also pretty good. Now, the cards aren't getting discounted in your hand. It's not like Beast where you kind of return stuff to hand and now you can put together a really cheap combo from his discount. You don't have that ability here, but you could play him with a new Black Swan as well, who's an activate to get a really cheap turn 6 at the end. And, you know, you could even bounce back Toxin. You could play stuff and then play Toxin on it to return to hand and then play Beast on Toxin to get him crazy. I mean, there's just some fun potential. It's really the first bounce back to hand full bounce card we've had in like forever. I mean, really, we just have Beast and Falcon. So there's finally a third bounce card that is actually one of the cards contributing to the bounce, not just receiving the benefit from it. So my first impression ratings for Toxin in terms of being flexible, no. This is another one. It's very clear that he's meant for bounce. Okay, he's not even as combo oriented as Beast, where Beast can go in like full bounce decks or like these bounce plus move packages where you get the cards cheaper to, you know, do a big turn 6 combo like I mentioned. He's not giving that discount. You are trying to power up Toxin himself with the bounce. So the cards that you bounce have to be really good for bounce already, because they're not getting any benefit. You just have to play them again at full cost. So I don't think he's flexible, but I think it's going to be good. I mean, this has to be good for bounce, right? Just having another bouncer has to be good for bounce. I mean, it's going to help. How much it helps, we'll have to see. Is it amazing? Is it better than Beast? I don't know. Okay, we're really going to have to see. Again, he starts low power. You probably get him to 2/5 or 2/7 every time, but you may prefer Beast if you are relying on that cost discount to play him out the following turn. So I have to see how good he performs. Maybe he's just okay in bounce, but I think if you're playing bounce, you're going to want this guy. It just seems like that redundancy, having a third card to bounce, is going to be really important. Or, you know, you just don't run Falcon at all and you just have Toxin and Beast. And the last card coming out in the October season is Anti-Venom. Comes out October 29th alongside Supergiant and Ghost Spider. Anti-Venom is a 4-cost 6-powered card with the on-reveal ability to set the cost and power of your deck's top card to 0. Okay, now this is very interesting. He actually reminds me a lot of Iron Lad. Iron Lad is a 4/6, and Iron Lad looks at the top card of your deck to copy its ability, right? And he really benefits from Howard the Duck. Anti-Venom also benefits from Howard the Duck. If you know that the top card on your deck is, let's say, Iron Man, then you know it's a good time to play Anti-Venom, okay? Because it's going to make a 0/0 Iron Man. Now, if you have a card, let's say it's a 6-cost card, I don't know, Red Hulk or something, you could play Luke Cage, and Luke Cage would revert the power change. So when you draw that Red Hulk, it's not at 0 power. Okay, so you're probably going to want to play Luke Cage with him, but he might be reliant on Luke Cage. It may be better to try and find a deck where you don't mind the cards staying at 0 power. You know, if you're looking at an Arnim Zola, Iron Man, something with low power already, you don't mind losing out on that. But I think it's a very interesting ability, and again, it's providing more value, potentially, to Howard the Duck, and Lord knows Howard needs help. So my first impressions of Anti-Venom's ability to be flexible, I think he's okay. I don't think he's stuck to just one home. You could play him in decks that just have a lot of really expensive cards, okay? A deck that you might play something like Pixie in, right? And Pixie decks currently run Mobius to reset the cost change. You could, instead of Mobius, run Luke Cage to reset the power change, okay? So kind of similar there. And you could just play him in other just big stuff, maybe non-Pixie, just normal big stuff or some type of ongoing decks. Again, he really loves Iron Man, something that's already 0 power and doesn't need the Luke Cage. So maybe there's stuff to be had there. It's going to be really interesting. I think this card is a bit hard to cook with. Okay, it's going to be a bit tough. And especially if you're not playing Howard and you don't know what card he's going to set, it's going to be interesting. But in terms of being competitive, I think he looks kind of bad. Okay, first of all, he's hard to cook with, like I just said. Those cards are a bit risky. If it's not clear where the card fits in, maybe it's just not a good card. Or maybe it takes, a couple weeks for people to find out the best home. If you have a good home for anti-venom, let us know in the comments. I think this is going to be one of the most challenging cards for people. But the problem is, I mentioned Iron Lad. Well, you should probably just play Iron Lad. Right? I mean, let's be honest here. Let's say Iron Man is on top of your deck, who would seem like a pretty good hit for anti-venom. Well, Iron Lad is also 4/6, and Iron Lad would just copy the ability right away. Okay, or Jubilee would just pull the card out of the deck. Now, Jubilee is not a 4/6, so you'd be missing 5 power there. But Iron Lad would just pull the card right out, and you could also do Iron Lad on turn 6. You cannot do anti-venom on turn 6 because you need a turn to draw the card. So you really have to play him on turn 4 or turn 5. And if it happens that the card on top of your deck isn't a strong one, well, then you just whiffed. And you're probably better off playing Iron Lad. It's possible he actually gets a cheap card and it becomes worse. Because your cheap card is now 0/0 and maybe the energy discount didn't matter. Or maybe you're relying on Luke Cage, which Iron Lad doesn't do. So, I don't know. Iron Lad's okay right now. He's not amazing. And anti-venom, to me, seems a bit worse unless I'm missing something. If I'm missing something obvious, some obvious deck or set of cards, you can't just rely on him hitting one specific card. It's not going to happen. But if you have a deck that has 3 or 4 good targets, I'm interested in hearing about that. So that wraps up my first look and impressions of this October season. All in all, I think the cards are pretty strong. Again, I'm a bit unsure about Misery and Anti-Venom, but I think the cards are strong but fairly niche. Okay, besides Agent Venom and potentially Scream if she fits in combos alongside Juggernaut and Cannonball, I feel like Misery is going to be specific. Maybe you play her, maybe you don't play any of the decks she works in. Scorn is maybe good, but maybe you don't play any discard. You don't play Scorn. Maybe Toxin strong, but you don't play any bounce, so he's not worth it for you or for specific people. Maybe Anti-Venom finds some good homes, but it's very specific. So I think overall, while the cards are good, depending on what you play, your main archetypes and play style, a lot of the season may actually be skippable, even if the cards are really competitive. Okay, so I'm really interested to see where these cards land. I'm interested to start deck building with some of them. Maybe I can find out some other combos that aren't so niche. And let me know in the comments, as I mentioned, if you think of some good homes for these cards, because people are going to need help deck building with these ones. But I think it's a strong season. I think it's exciting. We've got cool characters, great artwork, and they've got great other variants coming out as well. So until then, stay positive. I'll see you next time.